Good morning.
Right here.
I'm Nancy Skinner, State Senator for this district, and I'm joined, our Assemblymember Phil Ting and I are here today to talk about our bills, and we're each carrying basically the comparable bill, mine in the Senate House, his in the Assembly, which I'm dubbing Let 1,000 Homes Bloom. And the reason I call it that is here we are in a lovely backyard. And as you can see, there's lots of mixed family units all around us. And what our bills do is further ease the path for property owners, homeowners, to be able to add second units and smaller, what we call junior ADUs, to their properties. And when you think about the housing crisis that we're in right now, where we have added far more jobs to the Bay Area, many more people have moved here, and very few housing units. And as a result, our housing costs are skyrocketing. Many of our friends and family can no longer live here. We have people that we depend on, lots of workers, whether they work in a restaurant, a hospital, you name it, they can't afford to live here. And one of the simplest, quickest, most efficient ways to add housing to address this crisis is right here in our own backyards or within our own homes. Whether it's converting a garage, converting a basement, converting an attic, or as here, just adding on to a small accessory dwelling, it wasn't even a dwelling, rather, adding on to a small accessory building so that you have this lovely, very compact unit, but for which a family member could live or any number of people. So we also have with us some of the folks who either live in this beautiful unit or whose property it was built on, and some other families who are trying to do the same thing here in the East Bay. So now I'm going to turn it to Assemblymember Ting.
Thank you, Senator. Well, it's really an honor to join Senator Skinner in her neighborhood, in her district, and to talk about accessory dwelling units. As you know, she outlined the state of our housing crisis. We've seen rents go up astronomically. We've seen an economy that has created many, many jobs, but no housing. And so what we're trying to do is looking at creative solutions, really look at ways that we can streamline all different types of housing. We passed a historic housing package at the state last year, but we know it's just the beginning. So these accessory dwelling units that can be in people's backyards or in my district in San Francisco, a lot of them can be in on people's first floors where the garage normally is a fast and easy way to get housing built very, very quickly. Unfortunately, some cities have purposely gone out of their way to ban these types of units. So they've actually passed ordinances saying that if you don't have a 10,000 square foot lot, then you can't build an accessory dwelling unit, or they're banning the types of accessory dwelling units they're doing. What we really need to do is streamline housing, not ban housing. And so today we're stating that we need to do everything possible to make accessory dwelling units built faster, quicker, cheaper, so that frankly families can be reunited, but also that different types of housing could be offered to different types of people. I know that we have Dan here, Dan McDunn, who helped build this unit, and he's going to talk a little bit about what the struggles are with building accessory dwelling units.
Oh, well, thanks, Assemblyman and Senator Skinner. That's fantastic. The challenge we face here in Berkeley are not unique to Berkeley, but are, I think, demonstrative of what we're dealing with at the state and local level to get housing constructed. This particular ADU, 392 square feet in a great neighborhood here in Berkeley, took over 6 months to permit. I have another client here that's dealing with the same issue over on Mariposa that it took them almost 9 months to get through the permitting process, and another over on Addison Street, 5 months, and we're not permitted yet. These are for very small dwellings. I don't understand what would take so long to get a permit issued for such small structures, and I think the bill being proposed is one that's going to expedite the process for getting family members reunited and getting some small part of a solution to the housing crisis. So really excited to see this move forward.
Thank you, Dan.
And of course, I didn't write down your name.
Oh.
So did you?
Rose. Barbara.
I feel Daniel, my son, should talk first because he's the one who wore off the shoe leather with his wife to get the permit.
Okay.
So I
Right.
think that's
Daniel.
what this is
Daniel,
all about.
thank you.
This is our homeowner, Daniel, who built this great unit for his mom, Barbara. Go ahead.
Hi there. Well, I gotta say, for me, it's a real blessing to live on the same property with my mom and my wife and my 9-year-old daughter. We have a multi-generational property, and that's just a wonderful thing. I wish that more people had that ability. We tried to build an in-law unit many years ago, and it wasn't possible. At the time, Berkeley had pretty strict permitting rules. I'm very thankful to the city of Berkeley that they relaxed those rules, and it made it possible for us to build this unit. That being said, as Dan's already pointed out, it did take us 6 months. That was a lot of work, a lot
For
of
a
money
permit, to get a permit.
to get the permit. It took us 6 months to get the permit
And then
before
how-
before we could
yeah.
begin the construction. So it would be great for all families if they were able to make that much quicker and much easier, so that people can live together. In our case, for our family to be together on the same property is just a real wonderful thing that I would wish other families to have that opportunity as well. Thanks.
Did your mom want to say?
Yeah, Barbara,
say
would you
anything?
like to? Go ahead.
Thank you. Well, thank you for your presence here, for all of you too. My name is Barbara. I've lived in this unit since last September. I came to Berkeley 10 years ago to be with my family. I lived in South America for 50 years, and I was totally shocked and surprised how difficult the housing situation is for everybody in this town. I was helped greatly by the senior centers, which the city of Berkeley sponsors and which are great places for senior citizens. But all we got were lists of housings. And by the time you filled out your 10-page application, you were on number 11, 12, 50, 54. Some I know are even number 100. So there was no way of getting housing, affordable housing, through any of these supposedly affordable housing units. I became pretty despaired. I lived in one of my other son's homes, and I was very grateful when Daniel and Chris started the process of building a unit. Again, I was surprised how long it took. I make jokes, or we all make jokes about supposed Latin American mañana, mañana, mañana. But the city of Berkeley has learned that Spanish word pretty soon too, and come back mañana, it seemed to me. And I'm grateful for many things to the city of Berkeley, both its library systems and the senior centers and so many other things. But the housing situation needs to be changed. I attend many activities and classes at the senior centers, and I'm surrounded by senior citizens who live in their cars, who live in shelters, people who do not want to go to shelters, people who house sit. Most of them have storage units, and when they need something, they need to go to their storage unit instead to their closet. That is unfair for people who are in their senior years. I've met employees, whether they're gardeners in the wonderful Berkeley green spaces, and they come from way out of town because they cannot find housing in Berkeley. So I urge the city to really facilitate, to simplify the process of giving a license for the builders. I want to thank Daniel because he was a great constructor who simplified ideas, and I live very comfortably in a very, very reduced space, but what more do I need? And it has an extra plus. I have very little cleaning to do. Thank you very much.
So what I want to mention is, as Daniel pointed out, he wanted to do a second unit many years ago, and he couldn't at all. Meanwhile, the legislature, through the leadership of Senator Bob Wykowski, did legislation to ease the process of ADUs. But Assemblymember Ting and I are coming back with additional legislation because in that process, what did we learn? We learned that even though Senator Wykowski's bill very much eased the process, there was still the ability for cities to require large lot sizes. And as you can see from this lot, if cities require extraordinarily large lot sizes, you would not have this lovely unit. Additionally, we found out that there was still issues around parking requirements that were obstacles. And there were issues around allowing perhaps only one unit versus two or three. If the lot could accommodate two or three, if one could be in the main dwelling, an additional one in the backyard, why not? Given the housing crisis that we have, why not? So those are some of the things that our bill addresses. Additionally, it addresses multifamily buildings such as that, and I'll let Mr. Ting speak about that, since it was San Francisco that first piloted adding ADUs to multifamily buildings.
Thank you, Senator. So with multifamily units, quite often there were parking requirements in the past of those multifamily units. We're seeing people drive fewer and fewer cars, especially in different urban environments. They're using public transit, or they're using car sharing, or any different kinds of ride sharing, and really avoiding using cars. So we have units that find themselves with empty parking lots, or their lots are only half full. So they've looked at trying to create and build units in those. Separately from that, we have very popular in my neighborhood in the Sunset in San Francisco. You have people who build out their first floors or part of their first floors, adding additional units there. This is an opportunity to make those legal, make sure they get streamlined, but also more importantly, we often forget many of these units, when they were built before these laws were relaxed, were built without permits. And so what you find is they're not built to code, they're not built to health and safety, their ceiling heights are often too small. And so what this led to was oftentimes a dangerous environment for people to live in. So that's the other side of it. Not these units will continue to get built whether they're legal or illegal. So if you don't make them legal, then there will be continued health and safety violations. There will be continued issues. And so what we want to do is we want units that are safe, units that are affordable, and units that can be built quickly. And I think we're starting to see that grow all across the state. We're very pleased by many of the cities that have led, whether it's LA, San Francisco, Oakland. Those cities have really been leaders in pushing accessory dwelling units, and we really hope that other cities will join them in this effort. At this time, happy to take any questions.
I just want to understand, I mean, when you're passing state law, that wouldn't supersede the
Yes.
city's
It
Yes,
absolutely
it
does.
does.
Could you
That's the,
Okay, explain
that is the purpose of our laws, is basically to ease the process of these secondary units, or junior. They also have what we call junior ADUs, which don't require a full kitchen. And the reason we're carrying these is so that local governments do not enact unnecessary barriers or obstacles to the permitting of these rules. And as you've already heard from our folks, we've had, even with Senator Wajkowski's law, you find that a simple permit for a less than 400 square foot unit took 9 months. And that's ridiculous. So our legislation basically removes a bunch of obstacles, and yes, it overrides the local governments from being able to enact those obstacles. It still allows for design issues. The local government can add whatever design issues. It still allows for, if there's fire safety issues around that unit, things like that. We do not override that level of local control, but we certainly do around lot sizes, around parking requirements, and around a variety of other things that are persistent barriers to getting this housing fast, which is one of the only forms of housing that we can get fast.
So for example, Senator Wajkowski, when he did his legislation, he did not ban or say that cities could not discuss lot size. So then the city of Arcadia, which is down in the Los Angeles area, then passed legislation to say you can have an ADU, but you have to have a 10,000 square foot minimum lot size.
What would it do for those cities that already have those laws in effect?
It would not allow a city like the city of Arcadia to pass that kind of law.
But the ones
So
that are in effect?
the ones that are in effect, if they've been taken into effect already, I don't know that we've addressed that. I think we will have to talk to our legal counsel whether
Right.
we can
Right.
supersede current laws. But this city action was in direct reaction to Senator Wajkowski's legislation. So again, we are caught in the situation where in the past the state has not legislated housing. Housing and land use have been core city government functions. But given our housing crisis, not just here in the Bay Area, really all over the state of California, where we can't keep up with the job creation, we've decided to step in to do something about it.
Other questions?
So is the ADU unit part of the lease for the landlord, which means the homeowner can lease the unit out?
Yes. So what we do is we really want to incentivize housing, not necessarily Airbnbs or other types of short-term rental situations. So this is really meant that if they wanted to have a tenant or they wanted to have a family member, so it allows the property owner controls the property. So it just gives that property owner greater control over his or her property to build an ADU unit to his or her requirements.
If the landlord is leasing out to a tenant, is there any requirement on keeping it at an affordable rent or something?
So you'd have to continue to follow
Whatever local
local ordinances are, right? And so obviously there is no we're not mandating affordability because we believe that having more units built will help stabilize the rental prices. But having said that, everybody has to follow their local city rental ordinances.
Any other questions? All right, well, I'm sure the folks here who have either built an ADU or are in the process of are happy to speak to any of you.
Thank you for coming.